One thing that any citizen or group of citizens can do is as simple as organising an afternoon tea and inviting one of their councillors around. There's only about a dozen of them, I think, in Geelong. Invite them around, talk to them about why you want them to lead the charge by declaring a climate emergency. Talk about how there are over 360 councils around the world that have already done this, and about a dozen already in Australia, and why it is so important that Geelong, as one of the major cities in Australia, and in fact also in Victoria, takes a leadership role on this issue. Geelong is a place in transition, economically, socially, and it is also part of the transition to a clean energy future. It has the power to make a declaration. It's only up to the councillors to actually do that. And they will only do that if they hear from their citizens that that's what they want. As a councillor, I can tell you that when I'm asked to go into someone's lounge room and they pour cups of tea and give you a bit of cake and pitch an idea to you, it is actually incredibly exciting. And I think there are councillors in Geelong who will get on board, who will want to lead the charge on this. They've just got to be asked. But also turning up to council meetings is really key, asking those questions, not being a pest or annoying, but in fact empowering them to take up that action. And they will do it because not only have I seen this happen in my own city, but I'm seeing this happen in cities all around the world at the moment. And Geelong, it makes so much sense for Geelong to do it and to get in before the city of Melbourne as well.
Yes. So there's is it 5 or 6 now in Victoria or am I behind the times with that?
I think it's about 5 or 6. I keep losing count because the more keep declaring. Maribyrnong, Ballarat, Darebin, Yarra and Moreland.
That's 5. Yeah.
So 5. And we've, of course, Ballarat was the first regional city, but we're looking for our next major metropolitan or regional centre, whichever way you want to describe Geelong. So
sure. And how did it feel to you, like the first council meeting that you went to when it was declared? Was that in your wildest dreams that would happen?
I was actually taken aback by what it meant for people. I remember on the 5th of December 2016, that was the first motion of the new council after our elections, and after putting that up on Facebook, it had 10,000 engagements, which was unlike anything that I'd put on Facebook. And so it went off and we realised that we actually had cracked something, which was that we got the message right. It was what people needed to hear. But that was just the start of a conversation. And then we had to work out, what does it mean for a council to actually recognise the climate emergency? What changes do we need to start to make? And one of those that was made just about a year ago was in fact to look at every element of what we do and to think, how can we respond in this context now? So everything from road surfacing to the number of trees we plant per year, how we make sure that our aged care service, our home care service, is keeping people safe during heat waves. So every aspect of our business actually is impacted by climate emergency, and that's what taking it seriously means. But it's opened up an enormous amount of opportunities for us too, which is that we now have a different way of thinking about how council spends money, about the powers that we might try to gain and use to make a difference. And I think longer term, actually saying that what the decisions we make right now about our city's future are in have got to be in a climate resilient future, not in an unsafe future. And that's a really important conversation to start having with your community.
And it's buy-in by all councillors now? Has it been from the start?
It was a unanimous decision of our council, and that was because our citizens got the majority of councillors to sign the climate emergency declaration before the election. So that was a clever move, because it's very hard for them to say they're not going to go ahead when they've already said they're going to go ahead. So, but even if they haven't, in fact, 2 of our councillors hadn't actually signed that before the night that we voted on it, but they wanted to be part of it because they knew it was significant. And I think even if it's not something that they've thought a lot about, they can still come on board. And sometimes it takes a couple of goes to get it over the line, but we will get there, and it will be a significant move if Geelong can do this.
Yep. And what about staff buy-in for them? Did that flow from the unanimous council decision, or how did that happen?
I would say that it took a little bit of time to really get people to understand what that meant, that it wasn't just another council motion. We make lots of motions all the time around climate change and other sort of broader sustainability issues. Probably the change point was when we did a couple of things. One is that we put, when we hired a new chief executive officer, we put it in the job ad. You'll be leading the council's climate emergency response, which meant that everyone who had applied for that job had to respond in that way. It's the first promise under our council plan, which is a 4-year plan approved by the state government. So it was the first time the state government had ever signed off on a plan that referred to the climate emergency. And that meant that suddenly we had a mandate through all of our council operations to talk about that response. The next thing was actually to get all the 27 council managers, so not just the directors and the CEO, but the managers, and actually take them through climate emergency training, which was led by people like Adrian Whitehead, who of course has been at the forefront of the activist movement in this space for a long time.
Once we start seeing the conversation with the community, once the community, we start reaching out to the ethnic groups, the churches, etc., through the council, through the newsletters, through the website, through volunteers working hand in hand with council from the community to get a combined approach, I think the climate emergency message will be unstoppable.
I would really encourage both listeners and also the Geelong councillors to see this opportunity to continue to be a leading council on this issue. This is the opportunity right now to step into that space. Yes, you might get some global headlines. If you can handle that, here's a good reason to do that. It's one of the best things, and your community that is vulnerable will thank you for taking that action. But you'll also find that you become part of a network. We're bringing together all 365 councils from around the world together in a couple of months' time. We'd love to have them. We're going to bring them together online for the first global online gathering of climate emergency cities. We'll be inviting others to come along. We'd love to have Geelong as a partner in that, and it would be great for Geelong citizens to know that their city is at that table.
The Sustainable Hour.
For a green, clean, sustainable Geelong. The Sustainable Hour.